you about it, but if you would, just give a warm welcome for Kaden today.
All right, I don't talk on a microphone often, so, but yeah, that's my name, and that's Wyld Lyfe here in that back room. You guys know it well. Middle school students, you see Andrea's there. I think, Jason, you're in that picture, are you? Somewhere, yeah. And what Wyld Lyfe is it's like our middle school version of Young Life, right? And we do Young Life at Clay Battelle High School as well. And what Young Life is our mission statement's two parts. It's introducing adolescents to Jesus Christ and helping them grow in their faith. So it's two parts. And we do that by going to where they are, right? Jesus very rarely hung out with Pharisees and Sadducees, the religious people, right? They would often seek him and be like, "Hey, you're doing things wrong," and he'd be like, "All right, man," like no, but like whatever. But instead, where did he go? The Pharisees judged him for reclining at table with prostitutes and with tax collectors and with people who were seen as outcasts, right? And that's what we're all about. Is the next a picture? I think the next is another picture. Yeah. So this is what we're about, and by we I mean these people. So I'm over there, Matt Gadd right here, CB alumni, and then Addie, who's a freshman at WVU, just got placed as one of our leaders. She's holding her name there. Maggie next to her, who's been hanging out with us for the same amount of time as Matthew. And then my roommate, Pat, is right in there between Ashton, who goes to Clay Battelle, and Matthew. And then Mary, our other girl leader, is not in that picture. She wasn't there that night. But there's 6 of us, and our whole deal is we want to go hang out with kids, and we want to share our lives with them, and we want to tell them about Jesus. And we think the best way to do that is relational, and because that's what the Master did. That's what Jesus did, right? I would love to just stand there and tell them Jesus from afar and have them get it. But instead, I'm going to go pick them up, take them to Morgantown, play ping pong at the mall, buy them dinner, and then on the way home be like, "Hey, man, have you thought about like Jesus and who he is?" And then have a conversation with them. And so that's what I want to do, and that's what we do. That's why I'm a substitute teacher at the school. A lot of you know that. I literally go hang out with kids. I'm probably the worst sub ever, by the way. That's like legitimately, like if they ever book me as a sub, if any of you all are teachers, like I can promise that 25% of what you left is going to get done, and that you're probably going to hear a complaint from the principal that your class was out all day in the bathroom. Okay, like that's what's going to happen. Anyway, next picture. This is some of our high school kiddos with Young Life. This was an event we had in the fall. We called it Field Games Day, and it was great. I went and I didn't know how many pizzas you could buy at Little Caesars until this, by the way, like at once. I didn't know how many they give you till this guy came out with a stack from like the pizza portal, you know what I'm saying? And just like put it in my arms, like, oh, great. This was at Mason-Dixon Park, and we're trying to repeat this event in April and get kids signed up for summer camp. So at the start of April, we're going to sign kids up for summer camp, and we're going to take them to Glen Spey, New York, to a place called Lake Champion. Lake Champion. And they're going to get to hear a series every day where they go, "Hey, who is Jesus? What is our needs? What is sin? Here's what the cross did. Jesus dying for us, not because he had to, but because he wanted to. And then the resurrection and what does following Jesus look like?" And they're going to get to hear that. And I'll talk fundraising stuff later, but I just want to share, is next the video or the scripture? I just want to share this video with you guys first about the Young Life dream and the Wyld Life dream. So go ahead. Maybe.
But it got big because there was such a big idea behind it. Everyone has a right to know the truth about Jesus Christ. They're in every class, and every color, in every ethnic group, in every segment of our society. Everyone needs Jesus Christ. They have a right to know who he is. They have a right to know what he's done for them. They have a right to know how they relate to that. They have a right to know him personally. They have a right to make their own choice of him. Man alive, if there was ever a generation in human history that needed to hear that, it's now. So the big dream, stated another way, is this. It's a group of people bound together in the single-minded purpose that there's no price too high to pay to see to it that young people have a chance to know the Savior. That's not just what Young Life's all about. That's all that Young Life's all about. I hope that you people will get up with new determination and go back to the big dream and make it come true in millions of lives.
Awesome. So that's Young Life's founder, Jim Rayburn, who was a Reformed seminary student in Gainesville, Texas, in 1941. And instead of, they already had a youth pastor, so they were like, this church hired him, and they're like, "We'll go down to that local high school and tell kids about Jesus." He meets this, he starts having this Young Life club, and kids start showing up, and this little girl brings her high school boyfriend, and they're going steady, and he has no idea who Jesus is, and he hears it, and he goes, "Hey, next week," like he shows up like at the end of club when they're about to, so at club we do games, songs, we end with like a message about Jesus. It's called our club talk, right? So this kid named Burr Nichols shows up for the club talk, right? and like the little freshman girl brings her boyfriend and hears Jesus for the first time in a real way. That's real to him, right? You know, he wouldn't step foot in a church. He was kind of church hurt, afraid. You know, you guys talk about a lot about that here. Jason was sharing with me your series on spiritual warfare, and that's really great. And so next week he goes, "Hey, Jim," he talks to the founder, the guy you heard in the video. "Hey, Jim, I'm going to bring the football team next week." All right, great. Sure enough, club goes on, no football team, nothing. Jim's there. He's about to give the message, and sure enough, he hears a doom, 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 doom clop across the front porch, because he would do his club talks against the front door of this house, because it was the entryway, was the only place where they could gather. So sure enough, pushing on the door behind him is Burr Nichols and like half the football team from this high school in Texas, right? And he said, "I didn't know what else to do, so I gave him the gospel the best I knew how." And he did. Burr ends up accepting Jesus, believing in Jesus, and having a relationship with Jesus. And then on his way to college that summer, he dies in a car accident. But like, can you imagine if no one had stepped into Burr's life? If it weren't for that little blonde freshman girl and Jim Rayburn, who said, "Yeah, bring him. Yeah, he doesn't go to church, bring him. I want him here. Like, I want him to hear about this." And it's just really special. So anyway, what we're all about, I'm going to put it up on the screen. The next verse is kind of what we do. So 1 Thessalonians 2, 5-8 says, it's up there, but, "For we never came with words of flattery, as you know, nor with the pretext of greed. God is witness. Nor did we seek glory from people, whether from you or from others. Though we could have made demands as apostles of Christ, but we were gentle among you, like a nursing mother taking care of her own children." Here's my favorite part, right? "So, being affectionately desirous of you, we were ready to share with you not only the gospel of God, but also our own selves, because you had become very dear to us." These kids are dear to us. Matthew and I and Mary and Maggie and Addie and Andrea and Jason and all the people that work with us and anyone that I've met with and talked to, and all of you guys, they're dear to us. And so if you'll keep having us, keep having Wyld Lyfe, keep supporting us, I love that a lot. And if your thing's not go sit in the student section with us, that's great. I'm weird. I'm a 23-year-old dude who sits in the student section, right? Like, I could get kicked out at any day, probably. It's really, you know, I understand it's a weird concept. But you know, in that student section is where I hear the kids who you hear all manner of hurt, more than you've ever heard ever. And teachers, you know it. In the classroom, you kind of tune it out a little bit, but you hear all manner of hurt, and it is just scary, but there's so much room for grace, and it's so good. And so if that's not your thing, go hang out with me and Matthew in the student section. Then maybe your thing is, hey, I want a list of all your events, Young Life and Wyld Lyfe. I want to make this the most prayed for thing in the state of West Virginia every week. Great. I'll get you a list of kids. You can pray for each kid by name. Great. If you're like, hey, I like that summer camp thing, or we're taking a campaigner weekend where we're taking kids to share the Bible with them in Nicholas County, where I'm from. And if your thing's like, hey, I have $100, I have $200 for a kid. I have $1,000 I want to give kids for summer camp. I'm not doing anything with it, right? I'm not saying any price. Hey, I have $5 I want to give to summer camp, you know. Do it. You can get my number. Jason and Andrea does a lot of fundraising stuff with you guys here for Wyld Lyfe and Young Life, and we'll get it taken care of. But yeah, this is just, how much time do I have? 5 minutes? this is just what I wanted to share. And we interact with students at the high schools and the middle schools. I see Josiah back there. I met him pretty early on because you had just started coming to Clay Patel when I moved here, so that's pretty cool. And a bunch of the kids that go here, middle school and high school, we get to interact with, and it's great. And obviously the end goal is for them to be a part of the church, right? Whether it's here, whether it's Beulah down the street, who hosts a lot of our events, right? Part of the church. I like that. What's that first thing you guys had up there? I just don't want to butcher it. Great. We are the church, no matter where we meet, right? And I love that. And that's what Young Life's about, is sharing Jesus with kids because they deserve to hear it. So, thanks. Yeah.